I don't really, I read the Bible, okay, but I have a hard time seeing, so I like to write things down so I get it in my mind. But good morning to my brothers and sisters of Eden. You guys mean a lot to me, and thank you for this opportunity. And I'm just going to try to keep it simple today because I don't want to mess this up. I realize Pastor Wayne does this every week, and it's a lot to do. And so I'm just trying to keep it simple. And I'm going to read today from a couple books. Just try to tie everything together. So here's one from Romans chapter 12, verse 16 through 18. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud, but be willing to associate with people of low position. Do not be conceited. Do not repay anyone with evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it is possible, as far as it is depends on you, live at peace with everyone. We got to do that in this society today. We got to really live in peace. But then something else triggered me. I get Bible verses on my phone every day, and I'm like, oh man, I'm really not living as a Christian, so I got to change. But here's another one by 1 Timothy, chapter 4, verse 4 and 5. For everything God has created is good, and nothing is rejected if it is received with thanksgiving, because it was consecrated by the word of God and prayer. Just ponder on that for a little bit. I got another one here in a little bit, but, this is my notes. I need this. Am I nervous? Absolutely. I stand in front of people, play music all the time, and I'm always nervous doing that, but once you get started, it's fine. This is completely different for me. I talk all the time. And if anybody knows me, we'll start talking, and I ramble on like 100 miles an hour, and I go from subject to subject to subject, and I just might get back to what I actually started talking about. So I'm going to try to slow it down a little bit today, and I probably will do that same thing. But I promise I'll get back to what we started at. But anybody feel blessed? Because I know I do. Every day we're blessed. Because it's small miracles in life. Because we don't have to think about waking up in the morning at 3 o'clock in the morning and go, breathe, Jamie, breathe. Make my heart beat, Jamie. I don't have to remind myself to do that because our Creator, who just Timothy says, everything He created is good. So I'm thinking, all the things He has created, just look around. He sees the trees. Billions of things out there, just trees, billions of trees, and birds. And I know Aaron enjoys watching that out there on the porch every morning, just seeing the different birds out there, and that's so appreciative. And we need to accept that and learn what is important to us. But look at ourselves and how complicated we are. And God's creations, we're complicated. He gave us a head, 2 ears, 2 eyes, 1 mouth, a heart that beats, arms and legs. And even though we're so similar, yet we're so different. It's the small things in life that make us different. Not everybody can be a teacher or a preacher, a fireman or a police officer. Not everyone can work on computers. Not everybody can play music or be a musician, a magician, or anything like that. We all have our special things that we are here on earth for. So when I was asked by you all to do this, I had to really pray on this. And I accepted this challenge, and I go, well, what can we talk about? What can everybody understand? It might be a message that we might have heard 1 billion times, but today it might be a little bit different. Well, I'm going to try. Let's let it sink in our 2 ears. And then we're going to use our 2 eyes that God created us. So, my message, I was trying to figure it out. What would the message be? And I thought, we're going to revitalize our church, right? So why can't we be just Christians? But as a competitor, like football and baseball, I'm thinking, well, why just be a Christian? I can't be a good Christian. What a better Christian? Or how about the best Christian? And I got to thinking, that's really not fair, because we all have our flaws. We all sin. So why don't we just focus on just being a Christian, a continuous, constant Christian, and pass on the word that God tells us to? So I'm going to try that today. But I'm trying to think, what would be the real message? What can we do? So the best time, I think, is when I'm out on there mowing grass. So I'm on my 25 horsepower John Deere running through the grass. I think all the time, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not. So that day it was not. The sun was shining. I was just enjoying God's creation that day because it was actually one of them nice days. And it looked good. The stripes are straight, beautiful, love that. So I didn't come up with an idea. So then I cleaned my broiler chickens for the last time, their coop. There's no focusing on a message there except for wow. So then I go in the house, I'm cleaning eggs. And as I'm cleaning the eggs, and I light test them, I clean the eggs and I light test them. 271 of them later, I go, why am I here? And I go, why are we here? Why are we here? Well, I'll tell you. And now I'm going to go back to my handy-dandy notebook here. Because I found this little message too. It's in 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 16. Live as free people, but do not use your freedom to cover up for evil. Live as God's slaves. What? We have to live as God's slaves. So, like I said, I like to bounce around. And so many people are so many different things. Like, let's go all the way back when Alexander Graham Bell was around. He made one of these. Okay, it didn't look exactly like this, but it's pretty old. It's a phone, a telephone, right? And what was the whole point of that? It's to stay connected to each other. Making a phone call, picking up and call mom, always staying connected. But with beautiful things, like I said, God doesn't create everybody to save, so he's created these engineers and techie people, and now we have these things, right? We have these things. So there's no wire, it's not connected to the wall, there's no cord. Back in the old day, you always could tell who's on the phone by just following the cord. Well, somebody's in the bathroom on the phone. Now it's hard to track it now, but here you are. It's buzzing now. Oh, it's 10:55. I did. I'm shedding the light. So anyway, these things are amazing. Not only are they a phone, they're a radio, you can watch movies on it, and all the good stuff like that, and stay in contact with everybody. So, it's crazy that I say this kind of stuff, but anyway, because I hate this thing. But I can't live without it. So, who has Facebook? Because I have Facebook, and it's another way that you stay connected. And so this guy I went to school with, I'm going to call him Mark. And when I went to school with him, I would never have guessed that he would ever do this. He has his own business. He's a landscaper, and that's an art, by the way, landscaping. So he's working all the time. He works a lot of hours. So one day he was driving home, and he was driving up the road, and he sees an older gentleman push mowing his grass. Now, this is not a city lot. This is a big country area. He's pushing his grass, pushing this mower back up this big hill and then back down. So Mark pulls over to the side of the road, and he watches him, and he goes, this is just crazy. You could just see the guy huffing and puffing. And Mark says, you know what? He unloaded his tractor, and he drove it across the street. He drove it into the driveway, and the gentleman stopped mowing the grass. He goes, hey, how can I help you? And Mark goes, how can I help you? I have a business as a landscaper. As you see, I drove my tractor over here. Would it be okay if I mow your grass? And the guy says, oh, that would be great, but I just couldn't afford to pay you. And Mark says, nope, I'll take care of it today. So he mowed his grass. It took him a half hour, 45 minutes, whatever it was. And when he got done, he was driving back up to the driveway. Now not just one guy standing there. There's two people there. And who was that person? Now remember, he don't know these people. That's good. But they know each other now because he uses two eyes. And that lady was that guy's wife. She was all smiles and tears in her eyes. And she said her husband's been out there for the last couple of days trying to mow this grass, pushing it. And they do own a rider, but it was broke. They couldn't get the part. Now, I don't know if it's because of the supply chain or they just don't have the funds. So Mark's made a deal with them. And that conversation was over, so Mark goes and loads up his tractor and gets it in the truck, and man, he sat in his truck and he just felt different. And I'm going to be a Grinch. Remember at the end of the story where the Grinch's heart grew and it felt warm? Well, Mark's heart felt warm because he just did something that he never thought he would do. He was tired from work all day, but he stopped. He used his 2 eyes that God gave him, and he used his 2 ears listening to their story. And he did what he had to do. That's why he was there, to help his brother or sister. He may not know who they are, but he does now. We have to do the little things in life. No matter how goofy it might seem. I mean, how many times you go to work and you go, I got this stupid job. It's just, but every little thing adds up to be a big thing. Now, I say that. I don't know if anybody knows I've been having problems with my arm. I thought it was my arm. So I went to a chiropractor. I actually made the appointment. Somebody was shocked that I did. And I found out it's not my arm, it's my neck. I'm like, wow. So I went there, and he does this x-ray thing, and yeah, I'm all kind of crooked. So he starts doing this adjustment. But I call it cracking because I'm like, wow, that felt good. And he adjusted me, and it felt so good. Like, I could actually turn my head. It feels really good. I'm like, wow. But he told me, no, tomorrow you'll probably be a little sore. He was right, but it still felt better. But then the following day, I felt sore, and then sore. I'm like, man, is this chiropractor like a drug? I can't wait to go the next time, I can't wait to go see him again. And every time he adjusts me, I feel so good. And then a few days later, it hurts, and I just can't wait. Like, tomorrow, I'm good to go again tomorrow. I can't wait. But I think life is like that because, sometimes we mess up. We do silly things. We sin. I know I do. And I ask God, please forgive me. And for a while, I feel cleansed. I feel adjusted, right? And then the next day, I wake up and I do the same thing. I do it over and over. I mean, how many times can I apologize to God and my wife for the same thing? So I have to figure out how to be readjusted and stay that way. It just takes time because we are all a work in progress. Now, we have to stay adjusted and stay positive. And remember, why are we here? We are here to be God's slaves. I mean, that sounds crazy, but is it? I mean, it's the little things that we have to do. I heard, Gladys, I heard you talking about a puzzle over here, and that's funny because I'm going to use that today. Has anybody ever put together a huge puzzle, like a 1,000-piece or a 10,000-piece puzzle? And you miss it. I mean, you sit there and you spend all this time building the border, filling all the pictures in, and you just want it to look like that box and how pretty that is, so I get it done and I hang it up because I'm proud of it. You take hours, days, weeks, months, me, a year probably, or longer. But you get all that way done, and you see this big picture, but there's one piece missing. You ever been there? And as pretty as that picture is, where's your eyes go to? That one spot that's missing. What I tell you about the littlest things in life, it means so much. That one little spot. We're those little spots. We could be that big puzzle because together we are that complete picture. Now, I don't know if everybody knows, but I was raised as a Catholic. I'm still Catholic today. And a lot of people at that church, St. Benedict, I went to for years. I was baptized there, confirmed there. And so many people thought I was going to be the next priest out of St. Benedict's. I'm like, and I ran around with the priest all the time. No funny things were going on. He was awesome. I loved that guy. Pastor Wayne's met him. Father Don's his name. But the thing is, with Methodist churches and Catholic churches, they seem to move the priest around, the pastors, and it saddens me. So I took a break from Catholic church, and I go, I'm going to go see why there's so many other churches in our neighborhood. There's Baptists. So I visited them. What are they doing there? There's a lot of music. It's exciting. Methodist churches and Protestant churches. non-denominational churches, and we're all praying to the same God, just in a different way, you know? But the whole point of that is I got to thinking, God created me. He created this world. I don't have to go to church. I was that person. So I stopped going to church. Saddens me now because I lost all those years. Because I wasn't getting the word. I wasn't hearing the word. I wasn't seeing people like you to fill my heart. I wasn't hearing any messages from God at all. I never made the connection. I lost the connection to God. Like I said, you don't have to have a cell phone to call God. He's here all the time. I lost that connection. But the funny thing is, why are we here? Well, I didn't become a priest because, well, God created a lot of things like women. And my two eyes went right to them. And, well, thankfully that happened because now I have a beautiful wife and two wonderful children that I am thankful for, which comes to my next part. One of those children, Cadence, wanted to join Scouts. And so remember, I'm not at church anymore. I stopped going because here's my church. Cadence says, hey, there's a Scout Sunday at Eden Church of the Brethren. I go, okay, fine. So they all came. If you all remember so many years ago, I did not show up. But when Cadence came home, she goes, Dad, what? I'm going back. We have to go back to church. I go, why? Well, they got this thing called Children's Church, and apparently if you go like 5 consecutive times, you get a prize. I'm like, what? What is Children's Church? As a Catholic, we don't have Children's Church. So that's why you guys are here. You brought her into this church, and guess what? The following Sunday, I found myself driving here, and here we are, and I go, gosh, I drove by this place so many times. I knew it was a church, but I didn't know what it was. But I tell you, I walked through those doors, and you know what I saw? Love. I felt love. I felt warmth. I felt welcomed. I mean, if you could have cut me down and opened me up, you would have saw my heart had a bunch of holes in it. But when I came into this church, you were all those small pieces that put that heart back together. It might look like a big puzzle piece, but you guys completed me. And now when we missed church for those 13 weeks for COVID, I was lacking something. I was lacking this building. I was lacking you. Yeah, we saw the messages with Pastor Wayne online. Sure, that's cool. I still got to hear that with my 2 ears. But I didn't get to see you with my 2 eyes. That's what's so important. That's why we are here. We're here to build that puzzle. We're here to work for God. We're here to be God's slaves. So I want to close that up and just remember, the reasons we are here is to use our 2 eyes to see our brothers and sisters when they are in need. Stop, drive across the street, and help them. Listen with our 2 ears. Someone needs us, or we need you. And listen to the word of God, because that will never steer you wrong. Because remember, everything God created is good, as long as you can't reject it if you welcome it with thanksgiving. And always remember to use your mouth. The one thing that our mouth is good for is giving God the praise and the glory. Amen.